Engagement, right? Political campaigns are about talking to people. So, the tried and true bread and butter way of doing that is knocking doors, hitting festivals, hitting the streets, doing deep canvassing, having conversations with voters. And you absolutely need to be doing this. There's no replacement for this. If you're not doing this, you're probably not going to have any chance in winning your election, right? Yard signs don't vote. It doesn't matter how many of them you print. The people who like yard signs are your existing supporters because it makes them feel like they get something for their support. But there's research shows they don't deliver votes. They just make current supporters happy. So you still got to keep knocking those doors. You've still got to do all of that. But you can also use digital engagement tools. Like I said earlier, Action Network, Nation Builder, CiviCRM, these all have the ability to have their own built-in engagement tools like petitions and forms. So if you have one of these, everything else is supplemental. That doesn't mean that you don't want to, that the supplemental isn't good or that you don't want to use the supplemental. It's just that you already have some tools that can probably get through on a general local level campaign. I said petitions, which is the time brings about the time I break the bubble in these workshops for people. If you've signed a petition on the internet, 99% chance it wasn't turned in anywhere. It wasn't reported to anyone. It is a list building exercise. Change.org, nothing happens with it. Somebody collects the data and then you get on an email list, right? So that's what petitions, that's what these kind of, surveys are the same way. Like, we got some great data from surveys. We were able to, validate during the campaign that we were focusing on the right issues based on survey responses. We were able to find demographic information on different things, on different issues, things like that. Surveys are great. They provide a lot of great data for the internal campaign, but they're also a list building exercise, right? So that's just the reality of what digital engagement tools are for. Is they're for getting you more contacts so that you can then reach out to those voters who have taken an action or expressed an interest in your policy positions or your campaign, and you can engage them more, right? When someone likes you on Facebook, likes your post on Facebook, you don't have a way to go and find that person necessarily unless you've got a really dedicated social team that's going and clicking and messaging all of these people, and they're doing some, or if you've got tools that are aggregating and scraping this information off of when people interact. But with something like a petition, their interaction gives you a direct contact link if you ask for it, and then you can use that to build the relationship and turn a supporter into a prospective voter into a voter. And you can even do this with something simple like an embedded Google form, right? This can be done free or very, very cheap. Do-Gooder is a third party petition company. They were started by Greens in Australia, or former Green staffers in Australia who split off and started this digital engagement company. Pricing starts at about $40 a month. And their real specialty is that they allow you to directly contact elected officials. So you can have, a letter writing campaign where people are emailing an elected official on an email on an issue. You can have a call campaign where people are provided a script and it allows them to call their elected officials about an issue. And the big benefit of this, traditionally it's like you would link on your website, go here and find the link to your, the phone number for your rep, or give us your zip code or your address, and it'll populate the number for you or something like that. And the reality is every step someone has to take, you lose engagement, right? So the goal of Do-Gooder is to pick up some of save some of that engagement loss by not making them take a proactive action to go and find that number and then make the call on their own. It's all automated right there on the page when they do it, and they can edit, if it's an email, they can edit the template, they can add the things they want, and it can go from there. Action Network has letter campaigns. And as I said, that starts at $10 a month when you start paying, and there are free options. So for smaller campaigns, Action Network might be the better place to start for this kind of digital lobbying. That said, Do Gooder does a lot of other things. They're like built-in escalations where you can have, a petition on this issue, and then an email on this issue, and then a call on this issue, and then some of their more expensive plans allow things like letting your users tweet at elected officials. So they have these like built-in escalations to their campaign that are really cool and really important and good organizing. Because it keeps people engaged, it keeps people activated and agitated and fired up. SurveyMonkey is another good tool. There's free versions of SurveyMonkey that will work fine, and then there's $32 a month. Will cover what most Greens need. SurveyMonkey is really good for doing things like quizzes. We had a ballot access quiz during the campaign that asked people questions about ballot access laws, and that was a SurveyMonkey tool. Another cool thing about SurveyMonkey is that it can allow you to do ranked. It's not ranked choice voting. It's not single transferable and all the things that the Green Party talks about when we talk about democracy. But it is a weighted ranked kind of survey. So you want to you put things in the order, and it, like I said, it doesn't eliminate votes and do things like ranked choice voting, but it does give weights, and it does allow the ranking to provide a weighted result when you're asking more complex questions. The Green Party's Merchandise Committee used this when we did a survey a couple years ago, asking what people wanted to use for new products, right? And there were 20 new products listed, and they could rank them all, and then it gave us. It told us what we already knew was people wanted more shirt designs. It's how it goes. So, those are both digital activism tools, list building tools. And then the last one I have in this section is CallHub. CallHub is a phone banking and text banking app. I've been told that people on the ground are, in smaller local situations are actually just going back to spreadsheets as opposed to CallHub. But CallHub can integrate with Nation Builder, it can integrate with City CRM, it can integrate with Action Network, and it really simplifies your text banking, your call banking work, and it can do it, and it does it relatively cheaply for when people are using a browser to make calls, so calling through their internet, the voice over the internet calls. It's 6.9 cents per minute. When they're using their own phone, it's 9.2 cents per minute. When they're doing robocalls, when you're programming robocalls, it's 44.6 cents per minute, and it's 3.4 cents per minute for text banking, right? Or per text, and that's both ways. So when they text you back, it's another 3.4. But I always like to, think about this in terms of money spent, right? We don't have a lot of money in the Green Party, so I always use the example of $100. $100 is going to get you 10 to 20 yard signs probably. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but we're talking about a very small number of yard signs for $100. For $100, you can get 2,900 text messages, right? 2,900 text messages, where you can get 1,450 minutes of calling, of phone banking, and the amount of people you can reach in that with those kind of stats are just, for me, it's a no-brainer. There's no question in my mind every time I would invest it in the call banking, and text banking, as opposed to getting a few yard signs that your current supporters will like, as opposed to being able to use this calling and texting to communicate directly with potential voters and not just your supporters.